You know, if you're a Christian, you have your Christian friends, right? But then you have those friends that you're trying to minister to, should be trying to minister to, but a lot of times you find them pulling you, tugging you along kind of things. Well, here's the thing. Those who turn aside are constantly trying to get you to come with them, aren't they? They're always trying to get you to come along. Hey, come to this party with me. Well, is there going to be, what's going to be there? Oh, party. No, what's really going to be there? You see how this works? Because here's the idea and here's the principle. The Scripture calls us out to be salt and light, right? And if we have any ounce of God, working in us, light does one thing, doesn't it? It exposes darkness. It exposes the shadows. It exposes things, right? And so whenever we go into a dark place, you know what should happen? Your righteousness, the righteousness of God shining out on you should just completely make everyone uncomfortable. Let me just put it that way. It's great me being a Marine, and Hodges back here, he'll be able to testify here pretty soon, that a lot of the Marines I know, they'll have the dirtiest mouth. They'll be talking about all kinds of things, and I'll walk up in the conversation, and it just stops. It's so funny. It's just hilarious. But the idea is that we're to be salt and light. But you know what they want to do? There's two things that people who come in contact with light, who hate the light, will do. One, they'll eventually come to the light, right? That's what we hope for, right? That's what we want to see. We want to see our lost friends and loved ones come to Christ because of what He's done in our lives, right? I mean, that's a huge testimony. But the second thing that they'll want to do is extinguish the light. And how do you extinguish the light? You get them to do things. You get them to compromise themselves. You get them to open up to things that would diminish the light. Those of you who take a Faith Bible Institute, that's awesome stuff. I want to share an illustration that has never left me, that John Yates teaches. He taught that he knew this girl who went to college. And she was a godly girl, she didn't drink, she didn't smoke, she didn't chew, she didn't go with guys that do. She had that old Baptist mantra going for her. Well, she had friends that she lived with, they were roommates, and they loved to party. Every Friday they were out. Every Thursday they were out partying. And they were always trying to get her to come along. And after a while it kind of gets on your nerves, people constantly trying to invite you to do something. And you finally decide, she just had enough, and she asked him, if I go to this party with you, will I be, she just point blank asked, will I be able ever to tell you it's wrong to drink? And they said, no. Why else would we want you to go? Their conscience had been pricked by the righteous living of her that, they were trying to extinguish the light. And hey, and those who live godly will suffer persecution. You know what they did with the last man that lived holy? They lived a perfect life. They crucified him. If you live the way Jesus wants you to live, you'll end up being crucified every time. But I like this idea of light, but I also like this idea of salt. Salt irritates. And if you haven't irritated somebody lately, I just don't know. The whole idea of us being salt and light, if you just need to go out and irritate somebody. All right, here's the thing, okay? And this is me. This is, take this at its face value. I don't know what to think of a Christian that can get along with the world. I really don't. How can the world not get along with Jesus Christ, holiest man that ever lived, that has no trouble getting along with me and you? There's a disconnect there. And what happened is we've kind of opened ourselves up to things that have compromised the light, has compromised the salt. And if the salt has lost its savor, what good is it? It's good for nothing. It's trodden underfoot. And so I want to encourage you. There is a principle here about the things that we listen to. The idea of being invited, continually being drawn towards friends who are trying to extinguish your light. You need to guard yourself with all diligence, your heart, and not open yourself up to it, because you will dilute your character. And when you dilute your character, you lose the right to witness. You lose the right to tell a thing. And I would encourage you to guard your heart. The second one that's more prevalent, all right, those who turn aside. But then I want you to notice those who slander their neighbor. Now this is the gossip end of things. Now there's a principle behind gossip that you may not have considered, and I want to share that with you. Whenever gossip is going on, you know what's happening? The person that they're talking about and that you're listening about is driving a wedge between you and that person. Now it's very subtle. You don't realize it. But they are affecting your perception of that person every single time. And you have not heard both sides of the story. You have not been privy to that information. And here you are drawing a conclusion about someone just based on entertaining and hearing something that you don't know really is true or not. So there's something there that you need to be aware of. Also, the same thing goes whenever somebody talks about a circumstance or a situation. They'll tell you their side of the story, and they will cause you to have a biased judgment towards that item that you're talking or that they're talking about, and not having heard, again, both sides of the story. Gossip accomplishes nothing, and you do yourself a disservice in listening to it. You do. You are putting blinders, if you will, on your eyes so that you cannot discern and judge properly. So I want to encourage you, if anyone in this room is talking about someone that's not in this room, or even if they're in this room, you owe it to them, okay? You owe it to them. Because you would want someone to stick up for you, wouldn't you? You owe it to them to say, we don't need to talk about this. This is not edifying. This is not profitable. This is not good. And they're not even here to defend themselves. And we don't have both sides of the story. And so it's all hearsay until they say it. And so I encourage you, don't open yourself up to gossip, because you will inevitably wreck their life. And what if they're innocent? What if they're innocent? You know, one of the good things, whenever I was being on staff in Monroe, Louisiana, we had a pastor, John Yates, y'all know him. I'm using him as two references here. He made this a rule, and I was so astounded at his conviction about this. If anyone was talking about anyone that was on the staff, pastoral, because you know that happens, right? Did you know what our youth pastor did? They'll go up to the pastor, wanting him to do something about it. And he would not entertain it for a moment. He'd shut it down right then. He said, I don't care, because I'm not going to hear it unless he's here. He was just that convicted. And there were people that would go up saying, did you know what the MBSF director did? And he would shut it down every time. But then he would come to me and say, Heath, I heard this is going on. What are they about to talk to me about? What happened? And I was just, you know what happened? I immediately trusted it every time. Because that's what's at stake, isn't it? Trust. Trust is at stake. You can't be trusted if you entertain things that you ought not to be. And so I want to encourage you again, don't open yourself up to gossip. And lastly, the last thing I want us to look at as far as the principle goes with the things that we hear is that those that work deceit and tell lies. Now, here's the thing. Whenever someone's telling you a lie, they have something to gain, and you have something to lose. All right, now, I don't know if you ever thought about that all the way through or not, but whenever someone is telling you a lie, they have something to gain from this, and you have something to lose from this. And so you need to guard yourself, because you know what they want to do? They want to make merchandise of it. They want to use you. They want to exploit you to their end. And so you have to be constantly aware. They say, well, how do you know when somebody's lying to you? How do you know when this is going on? Well, we'll get to that here in a moment. But if you expose yourself to enough truth, enough people that tell the truth, when someone's not telling the truth, you can spot it a mile away. And you know what I'm talking about. And you start wondering, what do they have to gain from this? You know, and you start having to distance yourself. Because why? You don't need to entertain those people that are going